Hello everyone, this is my Frost Porcupine build. Name's a bit of a work in progress. It's a Flurry alternative to the Twisting Blades build I did. As before, I tested this out between a bunch of 90 to 100 tiered Nightmare dungeons, and I found the gameplay to be a lot of fun. It's a little riskier than Twisting Blades, and tactically plays a little different. You have to watch out on your positioning a little more, but if you're looking for a bit of an alternative to Twisting Blades, try this out. Now I don't have anywhere near perfect gear for this build, but on the left from top to bottom, I'll list what in my opinion are the best affixes for each item. Let's get to it. So, starting with the Helm, you're going to want to get total armor, cooldown reduction, max life, then basic attack speed. If you can't get these, grab all stats or a stat. Basic attack speed is great here since you can't get it on many items, and the more you get, the better you stack your expectant, combo points, and regenerate your energy. As for the aspect, we're going to get Quickening Fog for the CC to help keep us alive, as this build isn't the tankiest build out there. For the chest piece, you're going to want to take total armor as usual, it's awesome. Follow that up with damage reduction from close, DR from distant, and flat DR. If you can't get that, then you would want to get max life, all stats, or a stat for your Paragon nodes. Aspect wise, we're going to slot Cheat in here. We do a lot of CC, so we're going to benefit a lot from the damage reduction from CC, and having the extra movement speed is always a plus. Next, for the gloves, we want to get the plus to Flurry, of course, as it's our core ability for this build. As usual, we want crit chance, attack speed, and lucky hit chance. Next best would probably be all stats, or a stat to achieve your Paragon nodes, followed by lucky hit to generate a resource, / heal, or slow. As for the aspect, we're going to take Frostbitten. Our grenade skills will freeze chilled enemies, and the increased crit damage against frozen really helps with blasting down the elite packs. As a side note, if you're feeling extra dangerous, you can put Frostbitten on the armor, and Rapid on the gloves for even more basic attack speed. Next up, the pants. Basically just think chest piece, but for your legs. We're taking total armor, damage reduction from close, DR from distant, and flat DR. Yep, just like the chest piece. If you can't get these, then we're going to take max life, all stats, or a stat to reach your last rare Paragon nodes. For the aspect, we're going to take might, which is just 20% DR that may as well be permanent, which is fine with me. For the boots, Penitent Greaves is best in slot here. We need that to chill our enemies, making them easier for us to freeze and porcupine them. If you don't have these boots, you want to get boots with move speed, energy cost reduction, all stats, plus shadow step or dash, and if you can't get those, settle for a stat. Aspect wise, you want to put on Ravagers. An extra shadow step charge is very handy to get out of sticky situations, and kills with it also refund its charge, which is great as well. Before we talk about the jewelry, I'll go over the hearts that you'd want. Just like a Twisting Blades Barber build, you would want to get a Caged Heart of Trickery, a Caged Heart of Revenge, and a Wrathful Heart of the Barber. So you're going to need 2 blue Malignant slots for your jewelry. You're using Revenge mainly to suppress incoming damage against you, and as a bonus, your Subterfuge abilities will unleash that damage upon enemies. You're using Trickery, very importantly, to create a Shadow Decoy that lasts for 4 seconds. This is procced by your Subterfuge abilities. Surrounding enemies will be taunted by the shadow, and they'll proceed to run toward it and attack it while it's active. After the 4 seconds, it will explode for shadow damage. This gives you basically 4 seconds to do your damage unhindered. Just make sure you're not standing on the shadow, or you're going to take a lot of hits too when the monsters attack it. And thirdly, you're going to be using the Heart of the Barber for massive explosive shadow damage. After critting a target, subsequent damage within its time will be absorbed by the target. That damage is stored and amplified by 14% per second, and then explodes outward, dealing damage to itself and surrounding enemies. You want to try and get a heart with under 2.8 seconds if possible, so they explode while still being vulnerable from your exploit glyph. Now back to the items. For the amulet, we're looking for my favorite affix, total armor, then follow that up with energy cost reduction, and damage reduction from distant or close. If you can't get those, try and get one of the following: percentage to dexterity, or one of the many offensive passives, like plus points to malice, exploit, frigid finesse, or weapon mastery. The aspect we'll use here is disobedience for the big armor bonus, of course. As with most rogue builds, we'll do many instances of damage, especially with Flurry, so we're going to get great value out of this. Next, for the rings, we're going to want these affixes: crit chance, vulnerable, crit damage, and resource generation. If you can't get these, you would want to go for lucky hit chance, max life, or maybe even damage to close or something like that. But you really want to get crit chance and vulnerable. Aspect wise, we'll be throwing Expectant on one ring, which works really well with combo points, and extra damage is of course great. If you're struggling on resources, you could go for Umbral here. And on the other ring, we're going to take Encircling Blades. This is a must for this build. Increased damage for our core skill, as well as making its target area 360 degrees instead of around 90 is invaluable, so definitely get that. Next up, the weapons. For the two-handed, we're looking for a crossbow for the built-in vulnerable damage. Affix wise, we want even more vulnerable damage. Then try and get all stats, crit damage, and dexterity. If you can't get that, next best is damage with core skills and damage to close. For the aspect, we're going to take Edge Masters here, or Accelerating, depending on how good your resource generation is. If it's good, take Edge Masters. If it's average, take Accelerating. For the one-hand weapon, we're going to take Condemnation. If you have multiples, prioritize the unique passive and core skill damage. If you can't get this, you want to take a sword with the same stats as the crossbow. Vulnerable, all stats, crit damage, and dex. If not, then core skills or damage to close. Aspect wise, you would want to put rapid here for the basic attack speed. Another thing to note, since one-handed weapons are your main weapons for this build, you will also want to make sure they have a high item level so you can have that great base damage. For the other one-hand weapon, you want a sword with, again, the same stats. Daggers aren't bad either, but I prefer the crit damage of the sword instead of damage to close from the dagger for this build. I, at the moment, don't have a sword, so I am using this dagger. Aspect-wise, we're going to take whichever one we didn't take on the crossbow, so either Edge Masters or Accelerating. Now the gems, as you can see, I've got the green gems, the emeralds, for critical strike damage to vulnerable on my weapons, and for the armor, I have the damage reduction while control impaired, which is the topaz, aka the yellow gem. I generally prefer topazes for the tankiness when CC'd because there is a lot of CC, although you could also take the rubies because max life synergizes well with Siphoning Strike and Enhanced Flurry, which we will get to in the skill tree. Next, for the specializations. We're going to be using combo points, so our basic skills will generate combo points, and the core skills will consume the points for additional effects. As you can see on the left here, it increases the damage for quite a lot, and we also get a attack speed bonus for 3 seconds. Not much else to say here, combo points is just the way to go, especially with Condemnation. Next up, we have the skills. We're going to start with Puncture, and we're going to pick up Fundamental Puncture. Then we'll go down here to our core skills. We're going to max out Flurry, of course. Enhanced Flurry, this is a huge part of our sustain. Each time Flurry damages a crowd-controlled or vulnerable enemy, you're healed for 1% of your max life, up to 12% per cast. Huge amount of sustain here. And then we have Improved Flurry. So if Flurry hits any vulnerable enemy, it will make all enemies hit by that cast vulnerable for 3 seconds. We're also going to pick up Sturdy, 3 ranks in there for the close damage reduction, and 3 in Siphoning Strikes for the lucky hit. Crit strikes against close enemies have 85% chance to heal us for 3% of our max life. Then we go down to Agility, and we're going to take Shadow Step with Discipline Shadow Step. Basically, I prefer this over Methodical for this build because it gives you the shorter cooldown to dodge and break more CCs. Then we go down here, we take Dash, and we're going to go with Methodical Dash, basically anything to help Dash's cooldown, which gives you more smoke grenades and dazing. Then we're going to get 1 in Rapid Gambits and 1 in Trick Attacks. Then we move down here to Subterfuge, and we're going to take 1 in Smoke Grenade, just so we can get the Enhanced Smoke Grenade. Basically, we're going to get the 20% more damage to enemies hit with the Smoke Grenade, thrown by Quickening Fog at the end of our dash. Then we're going to take 1 in Poison Trap, and we're going to go for Countering Poison Trap, basically just to help with the imbuement uptime. Then we're going to take 2 in Exploit, and we're going to take 3 in Malice. Then move down here to the imbuement skills. We're going to take 1 in Shadow Crash to get the 1 in Consuming Shadows. Basically, that is just to help with our energy generation, because whenever an enemy dies, it will most likely be killed by Barber, and Barber is shadow damage. Then we're going to come down here, get Deadly Venom 1 point, 1 point in alchemical advantage just to get that attack speed, and then we're going to get the 3 in debilitating toxins. So poisoned enemies deal 15% less damage, which is huge for us. Then we're going to take the cold imbuement with the mixed cold imbuement, so cold imbued skills deal 20% damage to crowd controlled enemies, and double that bonus against frozen enemies. Then we're going to come up here and take Frigid Finesse, 3 points, 15% increased damage to chilled enemies, 30% against frozen. And now down to the ultimate skills, even though we're not taking any ultimate skills, we're going to put 3 in Innovation for the energy generation. We're going to put 3 in Trap Mastery for extra crit chance against vulnerable and crowd controlled enemies after our poison trap activates. Then we're going to get 1 in Adrenaline Rush just so we can get the 3 in Haste, which is really good. Above 50% max energy we get movement speed, and below 50% max energy we gain attack speed. Lastly, we have the key passive. We're going to take Close Quarters Combat for even more attack speed. We're almost always alternating between Puncture and Flurry, so we'll have both 10% attack speed buffs active whenever we're in combat, which synergizes with combo points and Expectant. On top of that, we'll get extra damage to CC when we have both bonuses. Just like with the Twisting Blades build, if you don't feel so tanky, you can always throw on Momentum. This does lose you damage overall, although a bit of it's made up for with the bonus energy generation. If you do use this, you can change the cheats aspect on your armor to Stolen Vigor. You will really feel a lot more survivable with those changes, but if you can get used to the playstyle with close quarters combat, I definitely recommend that for the sake of clear speed and watching things explode even faster. So that wraps up the skill tree, and now we have the Paragon Board. I tried to keep it fairly similar to my previous build, so if you happen to watch that and want to try this after, you won't have to spend a lot on switching up the boards. So the full planner will be in the description below, so I'll just go through the glyphs and boards here. So for the starting board, we're going to have the Closer glyph, and that's going to give us our Cutthroat skill damage, and also damage reduction when wielding a melee weapon. So we're going to make sure we get all of the decks in here. We're also going to get both of these rare nodes, Skillful and Lawless. We're going to move up to our second board here, which is the Cheap Shot board. We're going to go through Safeguard, and we're going to put the Control glyph in here. That's going to give us a lot of damage to crowd-controlled enemies, and also we deal 10% increased damage to slowed or chilled, as well as 20% increase to stunned or frozen. So next we're going to go up here and grab Spearhead, and then move into the third board, the No Witnesses board, where we're going to put in the Exploit glyph for our vulnerable damage. Make sure we get all of the strength in here, we want to max out on that, and grab both of the rare nodes, and then we'll go up here past Ruin, and into the Exploit Weakness board. This is board number 4. And we're going to slot in Combat into this board for the critical strike damage. We're not going to get all the intelligence, we're missing out on one here. But we're going to go through Dosage just to get these 2 intelligence nodes here. We're also going to make sure we get Artifice for the vulnerable damage, as well as all these extra vulnerable nodes. Then we're going to get Exploit for more vulnerable damage. And we're going to get Unassailable. Then we're going to move over here. This is our 5th board, Cunning Stratagem. And we're going to put the Pride glyph in here. We want to make sure we get all of the armor in here. And we'll get bonus armor from Pride as well. And also we'll get the 13% increased physical damage to both healthy and injured. And then we will grab the Finisher node as well. Then we'll go all the way to the left, and this is our 6th and final board. We're going to have the Turf glyph in here, and this is the Deadly Ambush board. We want to make sure we get all the strength to get that extra damage to close enemies. We'll also get the 10% damage reduction against close enemies with this glyph. We're going to take both rare nodes again, Cunning and Engineering. That gives us the bonus 10% damage to enemies affected by trap skills, and also damage reduction from enemies affected by trap skills. And then we're going to go to the Legendary node and pick that up, which is 23% increased crit strike damage to enemies affected by our trap skills. That about wraps up the Paragon board here. And like I said, the link will be in the description below for the full board and build planner. Before I go, I just wanted to give a quick breakdown on how I generally engage most elite packs to insta-pop them. I found a pack here to try and demonstrate. I'll either drop a trap like this if I want to taunt them into attacking it, then I'll use Cold Imbue, dash right into them and Flurry. If they aren't already frozen by your grenade, your Flurry will freeze them. For the even higher damage combo, where you aren't worried about things attacking you from other places, you would Cold Imbue, dash into them, Flurry, then Poison Trap. Then chill out and watch the explosions. And just remember, it's not the elites that will generally kill you with this build, it's random post-death explosions, corpse bows, or insane amounts of poison. So keep those things in mind, and have fun flurrying. That about wraps this up. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you stuck around to this point, please like and subscribe as it really helps. Thanks again, and hope to see you in the next one. Bye!